In pop music, creating one great album is impressive, but delivering 3 consecutive masterpieces is what set true icons apart. In this video, we'll look at 8 artists with the best 3 album runs in pop history. Taylor Swift. By 2012, Taylor Swift was already a superstar, but her 3-album run from Red to Reputation marked her complete transformation from country darling to global pop icon. Each album saw her expanding her sound and pushing the boundaries. Taylor's 4th studio album, Red, was a turning point in her career. While she was still rooted in country, the album saw her experimenting with pop, rock, and electronic elements. Songs like We Are Never Ever Getting Back Together and I Knew You Were Trouble showcased the new radio-friendly Taylor, while All Too Well became a fan-favorite ballad that was close to her signature sound. The album was a clear sign that she was ready to take over pop music. If Red was a transition, 1989 was the arrival. It was Taylor's first full-fledged pop album, and it redefined the sound of mainstream music. Inspired by 80s synth pop, Shake It Off, Blank Space, and Bad Blood dominated the charts, while deeper cuts like Welcome to New York and Clean showed her evolution as a songwriter. The album won Album of the Year at the Grammys and became known as the Pop Bible, cementing Taylor as an undeniable force. After conquering the pop world, Taylor took another turn with Reputation, a darker, edgier album about the media scrutiny she was getting at the time. The album was a bold risk that paid off. Tracks like Look What You Made Me Do and Ready For It introduced an aggressive, rebellious Taylor, while Delicate and New Year's Day added emotional depth. Though it was divisive at first, Reputation has aged like wine to become known as one of her best albums. The 3-album run between Red and Reputation turned Taylor into a global phenomenon. Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson's run from Off the Wall to Bad isn't just one of the best in pop history. It is arguably the greatest 3-album streak of all time. Across 3 albums, he evolved from a talented young star to a global phenomenon, setting records and influencing generations. After years as a frontman of the Jackson 5, Michael broke away from his family's shadow with Off the Wall. The album combined disco, funk, and pop, bringing something new to the music scene. Hits like Don't Stop Till You Get Enough and Rock With You set the stage for one of the greatest runs in pop history. The album was a critical and commercial success, proving that Michael wasn't just a teen star, he was on his way to becoming a legend. Then he dropped Thriller, a truly historic moment. It wasn't just an album, it was a cultural event. It shattered sales records, won a record-breaking 8 Grammys, and became the best-selling album of all time. Every song was a hit, from the eerie title track Thriller to the rock-infused Beat It and the groovy Billie Jean. All the songs became all-time classics. The album's music videos redefined visual storytelling and music, and its impact is still felt in pop music today. Following up Thriller was nearly impossible, but Michael came close with Bad. The album spawned 5 #1 singles: Bad, The Way You Make Me Feel, Man in the Mirror, I Just Can't Stop Loving You, and Dirty Diana, which is still a record. With its mix of harder-edged pop, rock, and R&B, Bad showed that MJ wasn't slowing down. This legendary 3-album run cemented him as the king of pop. Lady Gaga. When Lady Gaga arrived with the fame in 2008, she changed the landscape of pop music. With hits like Just Dance and Poker Face, the album fused dance pop with electronic influences, creating a blueprint for mainstream pop of the late 2000s. The fame instantly made her a global superstar. The album's commercial success, selling over 18 million copies worldwide, cemented her as a pop powerhouse, but she was just getting started. Rather than immediately jumping into a new album cycle, Gaga expanded her universe with The Fame Monster in 2009, an 8-track masterpiece that took everything the Fame built and elevated it. Bad Romance, Alejandro, and Telephone became era-defining hits. The Fame Monster gave Gaga more critical acclaim, proving she wasn't just a one-album wonder, but a visionary pushing the limits of pop. By the time Born This Way arrived in 2011, Gaga had evolved into a full-blown pop revolutionary. The album was a bold fusion of electronic rock, opera, and synth pop, with deeper messages about identity, self-acceptance, and empowerment. The title track became an anthem for marginalized communities, while songs like Judas, Age of Glory, and Mary the Night showcased her ability to experiment without losing her mainstream appeal. Born This Way was more than just a commercial hit. It closed one of the greatest 3-album runs of all time and solidified Gaga as one of the defining artists of the 21st century. Beyoncé. Beyoncé was already one of the biggest names in pop and R&B in the 2000s, but her 3-album run, starting with self-titled in 2013, marked a complete artistic reinvention. She shocked the world with a surprise drop, a move that changed the music industry forever. The album was a sexy genre-blending experience, featuring songs like Drunk in Love, Partition, and Flawless. With this visual album format, Beyoncé redefined how albums could be consumed when she released a music video for every song. Then came her masterpiece Lemonade in 2016, mixing elements of R&B, rock, and even country. It used all those genres to tell a deeply personal story. Songs like Pray You Catch Me, Sorry, and Daddy Lessons tackled the topic of infidelity with brutal honesty. Lemonade was released along with a film on HBO, which made it even more powerful. It is now considered as one of the best albums of all time. After a 6-year wait, Beyoncé returned with Renaissance in 2022, an album that celebrated dance, house, and ballroom culture. It was a big shift in her sound, with tracks like Break My Soul and Cuff It becoming dance floor anthems. The album proved that after nearly 3 decades in the industry, Beyoncé could still reinvent herself while staying ahead of the curve. With this 3-album run, she cemented herself as a cultural architect, shaping the future of pop and R&B. Madonna. When Madonna released Like a Virgin in 1984, she was on the verge of becoming a superstar. The album was led by the controversial but irresistible title track, which catapulted her to the top of the charts. Songs like Material Girl and Into the Groove became huge hits, dominating the dance floors, setting the blueprint for future pop icons. The album defined the 1980s, proving that Madonna was more than just a one-hit wonder. 2 years later, True Blue took her artistry to another level. She moved away from the club-oriented sound of her debut and embraced a more global sound. Songs like Papa Don't Preach and Live to Tell introduced deeper storytelling, addressing more serious topics. Meanwhile, Open Your Heart and La Isla Bonita brought in elements of Latin and European pop. This album wasn't just a commercial smash. It was an artistic evolution that showed the world Madonna wasn't afraid to take risks. By the time Like a Prayer dropped in 1989, she was an unstoppable force. The title track remains one of the most controversial and iconic pop songs of all time, blending religious imagery with themes of love, faith, and race. Songs like Express Yourself and Cherish cemented her as the queen of empowerment anthems. With these 3 albums, Madonna reinvented pop music and pushed the boundaries, becoming the queen of pop. Bruno Mars. Bruno Mars' debut album Doo-Wops and Hooligans arrived in 2010 and introduced the world to an artist who could effortlessly blend vintage influences with modern pop. The album was full of massive hits like Just the Way You Are, Grenade, and The Lazy Song, showcasing his ability to craft radio-friendly pop. His soulful voice and throwback style stood out in an era dominated by electronic beats and auto-tune. 2 years later, he took things up a notch with Unorthodox Jukebox. From the reggae-infused Locked Out of Heaven to the dramatic old-school R&B vibes of When I Was Your Man, Bruno proved he could do it all. The album also gave us Treasure, a retro-funk anthem that hinted at where his sound was headed. By embracing multiple genres, Bruno ensured his place as one of the most versatile artists in pop. Then came 24 Karat Magic in 2016, a full-fledged funk revival that paid homage to the golden age of R&B. With hits like 24 Karat Magic, That's What I Like, and Finesse, Bruno created an album that felt both timeless and fresh. Every song was a banger, full of personality and swagger, making it his most cohesive album. It dominated the Grammys and solidified Bruno as one of the greatest entertainers of his generation. His 3-album run was proof that true musicianship and timeless sounds will always win in pop music. Janet Jackson. After proving her independence with Control in 1986, Janet took things a step further with Rhythm Nation 1814, an album that blended infectious pop funk with heavy-hitting social commentary. The album tackled deeper issues like racism while still delivering some of the most iconic pop songs of all time. With 7 top 5 singles on the Billboard Hot 100, including Miss You Much, Escapade, and Black Cat, it remains the only album in history to produce #1 hits in 3 different years. Rhythm Nation solidified Janet as a cultural force, setting the stage for a legendary career. Then she dropped her next self-titled album, Janet. It was a pivot in her sound, as it saw her embracing her sensuality while delivering some of the best R&B and pop production of the 90s. The album's lead single, That's the Way Love Goes, was a smooth #1 hit that set the tone for the album. Songs like If, Again, and Anytime, Anyplace became staples of the 90s, showcasing her versatility. With Janet, she cemented her place as an artist who could reinvent herself while staying ahead of the curve. Then she followed it up with The Velvet Rope. It was groundbreaking, with its deeply introspective lyrics about fighting inner demons. Sonically, it was a blend of multiple genres, influencing countless artists for years to come. The dance floor anthem, Together Again, and the rebellious Go Deep all showcase different sides of Janet. It is now considered as one of the greatest pop albums of all time. Janet's 3-album run from Rhythm Nation to The Velvet Rope can go up against any 3-album run in music history. Ariana Grande. After 2 successful but relatively safe albums, Ariana fully embraced her pop diva status with Dangerous Woman. This was the album where she shed her bubblegum pop image and leaned into mature themes. Tracks like the title song Dangerous Woman and Into You showcase her powerful vocals, while Side to Side with Nicki Minaj became a massive radio hit. The album is a mix of R&B infused pop, elevating Ariana from a rising star to a dominant pop star. She followed that up with her most underrated album, Sweetener. Teaming up with Pharrell Williams and Max Martin, she experimented with production, creating a more left-field sound compared to her previous albums. Tracks like No Tears Left to Cry had uplifting melodies, while God Is a Woman redefined female empowerment in pop. The album balanced fun with raw emotion, proving Ari wasn't just making pop hits, she was making cohesive albums. Then came Thank You Next, an album that felt like a pop music diary entry in the best possible way. Released just 6 months after Sweetener, it reflected the turbulence of Ariana's personal life, from her high-profile relationships to the tragic passing of her ex Mac Miller. The title track became an instant anthem, while Sever Rings and Break Up With Your Girlfriend On Board leaned into trap-influenced production, becoming huge hits, proving Ariana could adapt to the times. The entire project felt effortless, showing Ari at the peak of her power. Which 3-album run did I miss? Tell me in the comments below.